Welcome to the Code of Entry podcast, where we cloud the issues with facts and help you upskill to stay on the digital edge. Here's your host, Greg, with the latest.
Hey team, Greg here with your Code of Entry podcast. So in this episode, I'm going to have a very special guest, one Keri Fischer. If you haven't heard of her, if you haven't been in the government, that makes sense. She just retired from the Army about a year ago, really an expert in just about everything. So you're going to have background in signals intelligence and strategic intelligence and cyber and data science and capability integration across technology verticals. So really excited to have her. We're going to talk about some topics kind of ranging across the spectrum, kind of with an ethics flair. I mean, you look at Meta recently, they've been looked at from the Human Rights Watch saying, hey, they're censoring pro-Palestinian content. Well, that's probably because it's part of an information operations campaign. Okay. In the news, Huawei is rebounding. Well, it's very important to keep them out of 5G. And why? We'll talk about that. And also, you know, ChatGPT is kind of like Pandora's box. It's been open. Nobody's going to put generative AI back in that box. It's starting to become way too mainstream. Well, the New York Times is suing OpenAI and Microsoft for how they train that model. Well, who owns learning, right? That's an interesting conversation that we're going to have. But before we get to that, what I wanted to do is talk to you a minute. It's New Year's time, and talk to you a minute about New Year's resolutions. Do you have any New Year's resolutions? Well, a friend recently told me, and it's great. Why have a New Year's resolution when you can have a New Year's revolution? Like, okay, I like it. It's provocative. What do you mean? Well, what I mean is, why turn over a new leaf when you can turn over a new forest, right? A lot of people make New Year's resolutions, and they're very focused in a short period in time. So, hey, I want to drink less. Hey, it's COVID. A lot of people started drinking. I want to drink less. Hey, I want to start a new job. Hey, I want to start working out. Hey, I want to get into a new relationship. Healthier habits. Whatever it is, but it doesn't have a real tangible goal or thought process to it normally, right? Like, okay, where am I in 1 year? Where am I in 2 years? Where am I in 3 years? So what I would challenge you to do is make resolutions that are going to be revolutionary in your life. Make resolutions that are going to get you towards where you want to be down the road. And, okay, great. If that's fit, put more towards it, then I'm going to go to the gym. Hey, I'm going to start doing this type of workout because it's going to lead me to this type of workout, which is going to lead me to being able to do this, which will be a more active lifestyle, which will allow me to go scuba diving next year. Maybe a horrible example because you don't have to be in shape to scuba dive, but you get where I'm going, right? And I think the other thing here is, I mean, let me line out my life a little bit for you. So I have a daughter who is about to graduate high school and is going to go to college. Okay. I have a son that's becoming a sophomore. I'm retiring from the Army. I've got to start my first big boy job. Wait for the phone to stop ringing. Any day now, it'll stop. So let me line out my life right now. I've got a daughter that's about to graduate from high school. I've got a son that'll be a rising sophomore. I'm retiring from the Army. I'm about to get my first adult job. Yeah, I know I've been an adult for a while, but I'll get to pick what I'm going to do. I'll get to pick where I'm going to live. I'll have disposable income maybe for the first time ever. You know, that leads to a lot of like open space to check. Like, where do I want to live? Where do I want to get to? How long do I want to work? I have a pension coming in. How do I want to invest this money so that maybe I don't have to work as long as possible, or maybe it's not about that work? So it's like I'm sitting at this kind of threshold where my New Year's resolution/revolution is what I want to do with my life in this next phase. So looking at it from hey, I could get involved in government. I want to give back from the outside. That sounds really good. One of my frustrations of leaving the government is that, hey, I couldn't have the impact I wanted to have because the bureaucracy, the number of middle managers that, in my opinion, don't really know what they're doing, and having to go through all of these hoops to get people to do the right thing. Well, from this side of the table, I could bring the right thing, get it in front of a decision maker, and all those people in the middle, I don't have to check in through them anymore, right? Let me just make the solution and bring it to the government. Easier said than done, but it's a thought. Hey, the other side is maybe I go out into industry and I'm like, hey, I can go into healthcare. I can go into tech. I can take up underwater basket weaving. But I'm thinking about my life in the long term, right? What do I want for my satisfaction? Do I want more time for hobbies? Do I want to travel? That's what you need to think about this New Year's. All right, so I challenge you to come up with a New Year's revolution. How are you going to turn over that new forest? What's next? What's innovative? Where are you going to go? So instead of just, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to eat more healthy, think about where you want to be and set goals that are going to get you to where you want to be. All right, so that's enough with my New Year's resolution talk. We're going to jump into this interview. So coming up next, the Keri Fischer. Hey team, Greg here with Code of Entry Podcast. I've got the Keri Fischer with us. And today we're going to talk about some topics that have been in the news recently. And I really wanted to get Keri's take because even though she can be kind of quiet, and when I say quiet, I don't mean by volume, you'll figure that out. She's going to have some pretty informed opinions on this stuff. So to kind of go through the high points so you stick with us here, we're going to talk about Facebook, we're going to talk about Huawei, and we're going to talk about the New York Times. Maybe in that order, maybe not. We'll see how the conversation flows. So first, to get to know Keri a little bit, do the quick round of questions. So, Keri, favorite band?
The Beatles.
The Beatles.
The Beatles.
I'm not going to ask what year you're born in because that's probably like security PIN numbers and stuff.
I was born in the 70s.
But the Beatles? That's...
Yes. Breakfast with the Beatles every Sunday.
So
Outside Chicago, Illinois.
So that's like the Monkees?
No, it's not like the Monkees. I do like them as well. I've seen them in concert.
Nice. Okay. Nickname?
Webbs.
Webbs?
Yes.
Okay. Nice.
Based off my maiden name.
Okay. I thought you'd go with Princess since you're Keri Fischer.
That's my current. Yes, but.
Okay.
My decades-long nickname is Webbs.
All right. Favorite sci-fi movie?
Depends on if you categorize it this way, but The Fifth Element.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. I did a project on it for my freshman year in college.
Okay. So I think Rotten Tomatoes and you are going to have a big argument.
That's all right.
But I guess The Fifth Element does have like a cult following too.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you could say Serenity. If you wanted to say that.
Well, what about Firefly?
So,
Same.
One-hit wonder season.
Yeah. I mean, the
sad face.
The show is the movie.
Same.
Just saying. Hey, the girl did come back in the Sarah Connor Chronicles, though.
Those are two separate things.
But it's the same actress?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, all right.
Still weird.
Got it. Moving on. That's true. All right, moving on. So start with the first topic here. So Meta, the new name of Facebook. Of all people, the Human Rights Watch have complained against Meta. Probably a lot of great reasons that they could do it, but this reason was that they're censoring pro-Palestinian content. What are your thoughts?
A little shocked on it, I guess. I'm shocked that anything is being censored on Facebook to begin with.
Okay, that's true. I think maybe less shocking is it's probably less censoring than it is that most of the message is bots, and the bots are being shut down like they should be. Does that make sense?
I mean, that's just a never-ending cycle, though. Just keep spinning up more bots. The message is still getting out there.
Yeah.
Just waste resources on Facebook. They're probably doing something else.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that's my problem with a lot of the narrative on social media for either side of any argument right now is it's getting magnified to create tension in the U.S., right? It's not
Yeah.
just pro-Palestinian content. It's Democrats versus Republicans, Midwest states versus East Coast states, pro-military, anti-military, whatever. Narratives are just being exaggerated to make it so that we're polar opposite in the country, right?
The more you share it, the louder the voice seems to be, even though it's not actually that loud.
Yeah, so yeah, censoring pro-Palestinian content. Well, if they are censoring it, like you said, it's probably unintentional. What do you think?
I mean, they probably have ways to detect any bot activity. So just that it's happening, yes, but I'd probably want to look at it a little bit more to see if it's across the board, just all the different bots that are doing it. It's not like it's going to stop. But whoever's running the bots, that's more what I'm interested in.
Yeah, that's true. And if you're not, very familiar with information operations in general, just, social media is largely ungoverned. And that's great because we have free speech. However, there are a lot of folks that use it for other ways. So,
Did it say what language they're censoring it in? English? Arabic?
oh, I didn't look actually.
Because most they're only caring about things of a certain language. Like the whole reason that you'd want to make sure that you're removing speech that way is across the board of all the different languages. So it would help to attribute who's actually doing the bots as well in whatever language they're targeting.
Yeah, and maybe, yeah, I don't know because it's in the Middle East and Israel's so tied to the U.S., but you would think maybe a lot of the organic materials wouldn't be in English, right?
Yeah. It just depends, I think, on whatever you're trying to trend with, too. So if you're going to hashtag it up with whatever it is and you have multi-language, it does at least give you more concept into, like, who or what the purpose would be of having it done.
Yeah, and I guess not to segue to the last topic yet because we've got one in the middle, but, with the rise of large language models and generative AI, I could post in every known language in a matter of minutes anyway. So
Yep.
the language translation thing's not the barrier it might have been in the past.
I think I'd be more interested if they wanted to censor misinformation in comparison to just like pro-Palestine. Because being pro-Palestine can't be pro like human rights, right? But not, yeah.
Yeah. And to be clear, we're not trying to get into that argument of Palestinian Israel. I think Hamas is a terrorist organization and doing very bad things. So I think you can be anti-Hamas and pro-Palestinian. But
Yeah.
So
I think that's what most of those folks would like it to be.
yeah. Okay. So moving on to the next topic then. Huawei. So article that, hey, Huawei's rebounding in the market. They're up billions of dollars, and they're trying to get back in on the 5G game. What do you think that means for 5G in the U.S.?
Well, I hope that we still have restrictions in place where it's actually not going to make its way in to the U.S. based off supply chain stuff. I feel like their rebounding it is a part of a global market, so they've already made their way into certain locations based off infrastructure, right? So if they just want to increase their presence and then update the technology as part of that presence, that makes sense. They're just going to charge more money for it.
Yeah.
When they make those updates.
And I guess I hadn't even thought about that angle till you said that. And by the way, we rehearsed like this much, so I didn't even think about that topic. So, okay, Huawei, bad for the United States, if you didn't know. So in general, you don't want to be buying Chinese things to put in your house or your business or in the infrastructure for the government. Not necessarily like individual Chinese people, right? I'm talking about the Chinese government. And the Chinese government either owns or has significant influence and directs what happens in these companies, right?
Right.
But the other thing that you just mentioned that I think was kind of profound is, you have a lot of Chinese acquisition of companies. So I'm from Smithfield, Virginia, and it used to be the ham capital of the world. Might still be. Okay. So if you had a Smithfield ham before, my hometown, no big deal. Well, it was recently bought by the Chinese. So now, and the sell for the community on why it was getting sold to the Chinese was, hey, there's a huge market in China for pork, underserved, great dividends. It was great for my dad's retirement because he had a bunch of Smithfield stock. Yay. But now it's a Chinese controlled company. They can buy whatever Huawei stuff they want and install it around the country. But the other angle is, you have the Chinese making agreements with countries all over the world for ports, or not making agreements and just buying out a whole bunch of stuff where our military's going, or people are tourists, or along our borders. And, you look at the cell phone, it's all mesh. Mm-hmm. So a Huawei device anywhere that can just tie in. And, so they probably have great 5G kit. But I don't want my information going over that because it's my information. We believe in rights and privacy, and it's just not the case. It's the problem with TikTok, right? Like we're helping a nation that is not our friend, that we might go to war with in the next couple of years. We're helping them train all of their AI models. We're helping them get video and pictures of like our entire world because everybody's like, but TikTok's so cool.
Yeah. There's a different way to deliver their information as well. So if they get you hooked enough on the platform itself, they can deliver what kind of biased information they like to do it with. So it could be pro-Chinese, anti-Taiwan.
Yeah, that's true.
From the messaging side.
I know I kind of diverged off the Huawei, but it got us onto the Chinese topic. Like, hey, don't... Yeah, sorry.
Well, there's more to... whether it's the Huawei phone device or the routers or the infrastructure and the backbone of what makes other things. So if you do want to take a trip over to Sunnyside, anywhere in the Middle East, if it's running off that infrastructure, you're connecting that infrastructure, your phone is going to have that data go across.
Yeah, right? Your phone's done.
You going with a burner phone? Sure, okay, go with the burner phone. But at least protecting portions of the infrastructure in the United States, just like you can't use certain megahertz, you can't use certain things that interfere with emergency, spectrum stuff. So there's all kinds of things in there. If they continue to do that, that would be helpful from the federal government side. But it seems counterintuitive, I guess, because we want a free and open market, but we also don't want to be continuously monitored. And whether the government on the Chinese side wants to admit it or not, they usually don't. They are part of that overarching monitoring.
Yeah, and I guess free and open market implies that everyone is playing by the same rules.
Correct.
Right? And yeah, the Western countries generally play by the rules. A lot of other countries just don't, right? So
if you do reviews of just what the focus is for China and their pillars of moving forward over their, century-long build-up of what they want to do for, owning a large portion of the globe. This is just one part of it. Like, they're in the long-term game of, like, decades of investment in comparison to our 4-year investments between different presidents.
Yeah.
So they got a long-term focus on it.
Yeah. Presidents, senator and congressional elections, palm cycles. We're really not good at this. Let's just put it that way. And China can make a 100-year plan and execute on it. And at least they don't have our NCO Corps. They generally don't have the level of autonomy in their leadership that we have. They don't have the reps that we have at executing and deploying and stuff. But they definitely are winning at the long-term strategy game right now.
Well, I mean, if their portion of the strategy right now is reconnaissance and gathering as much information as possible, you've already highlighted all the points that support that part, right? It's after that part, what's their next steps?
Well, I used to joke, so working in the Army, I'd be like, hey, joke's on them. They waste billions of dollars to try to degrade a network that doesn't even work anyway. Well, I mean, maybe that's the other thing. We're kind of unpredictable in what we're investing in and what our next strategy is going to be. So it's hard to have a 100-year plan on unpredictable Americans, right?
Yeah, unless, well, that's from the government military side that you're focused on, but for regular population and what trends have been happening from handheld devices and then the software that you can install on those and all the different applications that lead you into all the TikTok stuff. It's not
Yeah, and
just a different space.
yeah, I'm gonna go squirrel. But it's like my personal disdain for Android, and there are a lot of people out here that just like cut me off. Right? They're like, "Oh no, I love Android. That's an Apple groupie." Well, I started kind of making mobile apps once, and I can do apps for both. Okay, great. The problem is the Android apps allow you to do almost anything on the phone, and at least there's some illusion of security on the Apple devices. So, all right, sorry.
Right. At least there's something to let you know this could be bad in comparison to the trust everything model. And by exception, it might be bad. You won't know it. Like, you won't even know that your phone is hacked. It already is.
Yes. All right. So we're going to move on so that people don't get too bored with us chatting in sideways conversations. So, Nerd. So I prefer dork.
Sorry.
No,
Geek.
I don't really. Yeah, geek's good. So New York Times, they're suing Microsoft and OpenAI because they have stolen their property. They learned from their content, and that's not allowed. So, it kind of begs the question. I mean, I read a news article and I learned from it. Is that illegal? Like, where do you draw the line? It's the first ever, lawsuit like this. I think it's really just a cash grab because the papers are generally failing around the world. At least, a lot of your newspapers will still have reporting articles. It's not like going to CNN or Fox News where you're getting that entertainment media slanted view, right? Like, oh, I need to go look at the BBC. But
I mean, they're not suing you, right? All they did was take you out of it, and instead of it being manual, they automated it. So they're not suing you.
Yeah, they're not suing me for learning, but they're going to sue these models. And I kind of think it's like Pandora's box, right? Pandora's box has been opened.
Yeah.
Generative AI is here to stay. And how they learn, do most of us care? They're so transformational, right? Like, I'm helping somebody write an NIH grant. I made an NIH grant bot, ChatGPT. Let's go. I'm writing a paper on sky computing. Took the paper on sky computing. It's like 100 pages. That's too big for ChatGPT. I put it in a Claude model on AWS. It read through it. I was like, this is very well formatted, but in chapters 5, 6, and 7, we believe that you could have used more practical examples.
Maybe that's why the New York Times is upset.
Yeah.
Because it's starting to show the flaws
Yeah.
of their content.
Well, I was able to go back to chapters 5, 6, and 7, by the way, and put practical examples in.
Okay.
But actually, so I'm going to geek out a little bit on Claude, and I didn't even mean to, but like, I was super impressed because I got this thing back because Amazon is, also investing heavily. That's a different news article I didn't pick for the show here, but you've got this Claude model, and it took 100 pages, and it told me that I didn't use practical enough examples in these 3 chapters, and then I got to be like, oh, really? Could you suggest practical examples? And it's like, absolutely. And it sends out these ideas. I'm like, those are great. And I get to go back and fix that, right? Now, I didn't have it write it for me. And I didn't have it answer questions to a test. But there's great utility to these things. So I don't know what you're suing about. It's been a revolution. Like, we used to talk about revolution in military affairs, right? Like, hey, it was gunpowder was a revolution in military affairs. This is gunpowder. Like, this is the internet. This is that big, I think. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, from the evolution perspective, born in the 70s. And then being able to have something that will do automation and modeling and then have suggestions to you based off things they've learned over the last, 100 plus years probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because it's made it to where, okay, we're pretty educated folks. We're pretty good at some stuff. The more educated you are, the better results you can get, right? There's this exponential growth that happens to where, okay, I'm not going to ask it, hey, ChatGPT, what's your favorite color? How do I make that color, right? We're going to be able to give it these really advanced prompts and get really advanced answers back.
Yes.
So
I think the other
ridiculous.
piece is whatever your topic looks like, you can also figure out if you've lost something in your bias when you put it together. So like if, as an example, you said NCO, like backbone of what we have, but that's for the folks that are in the audience, it's non-commissioned officers, right? But out of the like automatic things that we always say, we just assume we can do acronyms, we can assume we can do all the different topics, and I didn't miss anything. Running something through something foundational like that will actually help with like, hey, you missed these 3 different points that you probably need to have as your background, like your pillars of as you move forward, so you don't forget about them, even though it's implied because you already had it in your brain, you've already been educated on it, but maybe you forgot to provide it as resources for everybody else.
I just had a really good idea for Microsoft and OpenAI. So they've got this lawsuit with the New York Times for learning, against the New York Times. I wonder if you could go through and ask ChatGPT, hey, how many times has the New York Times had to withdraw a statement or an article that they posted previously and buried it in the back page of the paper?
All their corrections be worthwhile.
Hey, ChatGPT, how many corrections did the New York Times make to headlines in 2023?
I think it probably gets into like everyone figured out their content may have problems.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I don't have a lot of sideways geek thoughts about the New York Times suing Microsoft and OpenAI, other than, hey, it's the first time. Maybe they get shut down. Maybe they don't. If they don't, I think it's going to be really tough to train models. I think you're going to get into like the realm with AWS Code Whisperer or GitHub Copilot, where you can optionally contribute to the model. Now, the problem is these baseline models already exist. And if it was made off of that, you're saying the baseline model is not accessible anymore. But you've got people opting in to retrain the model, but models aren't based off the information that they were trained with, right? It's a real slippery slope. But I think what will happen is, even if they get in trouble, it'll be a money grab. They'll settle for more money than we'll ever see. It'll be like Scrooge McDuck and the
I feel like most of the focus of this would be, did you read all 59 pages of the terms of service, and were you using as like publicly available information in comparison to like the subscription based stuff, and is it copyrighted or not? It's going to go down to like more business related things that way, like they violated a terms of service.
Yeah, it'll be all right. So I complete my last thought then. I think the way that it'll go is you'll have like the Amazon Qs and Code Whisperers and the GitHub Copilots that people opt in to make those tools better, so that they can use your code. Because right now you can have them use your code and not contribute back, or say contribute back. It's like, hey, I want this to be better, contribute back. And I think that'll be the way that most of it will go. It'll be consumer driven. Whereas right now, to launch the model at the beginning, it had to be industry driven. And now I think it's gonna go the way of a lot of open source stuff. And you're gonna have a lot more consumer end user feedback, kind of iterating, pushing it forward, training it.
Yeah, I think the bench of like how the New York Times might be successful with it would be like if they're one of the only primary data sets that help to populate what Microsoft is using, and they weren't using multiple different types of data streams. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
like that's a stretch.
I haven't asked anything of ChatGPT that the New York Times would know anything about. Like, when was the last time that the New York Times published something on how I push a message from my iPhone to an Apple Watch to get the heart rate? That might be a project I'm working on.
Well, there's probably 2 pieces. One is we're talking about it, so we've said New York Times plenty of times in this podcast. So it's getting the traction it wants to get. But also,
this is not a paid advertisement for New York Times.
But in that portion of it, it's going to draw more attention to it. So did the New York Times publish their own article on this to like just be circular reporting so that people would come back for clickbait to their website? That drives up numbers to get access to the website too. I'm just going down the rabbit hole of why the article came out now.
Man, I need their marketing people in my podcast life. Hey.
That's what you get bots for.
And then we're back to the bots with the pro-Palestinian content. I need some bots pushing the Code of Entry podcast to more listeners.
Well, it's got to be quality, right? So
Well, I had Keri Fischer on this time, so either the quality went way up or way down. I'm thinking
100% up.
100% up.
I mean, 200% probably.
Okay.
Infinitely more.
Infinitely more? Not 95%? Not a 9.5?
Not a 9.5.
10 out of 10. All right. Awesome. Well, anything you want to say in closing?
No.
Man, guest with few words. So
You said that when I started, so.
I did. You called me out. All right. So, hey, appreciate everybody listening. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, share, please. And we'll be back with the next episode of the Code of Entry podcast soon. Until then, keep hustling.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at Code of Entry and online at codeofentry.com. Check back for new episodes or join the team by signing up for notifications. Until next time, keep hustling.